Hello everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and we are here today with the all-new 2025 BMW X3 here in the M50 trim. And of course, this is not an all-new vehicle. It's been on the market for around a year or so, but this is the first time we are able to get this in over at Allcarnews for our traditional 1 week test, so we can really live with the vehicle and see how it is on a daily basis. And I have to tell you, this is a very interesting new version of the BMW X3. Yes, the styling is all new and very polarizing, though there's still a lot of traditional BMW stuff going on here, from the fantastic B58 engine under the hood of this particular model. We still have a signature BMW driving experience. And yes, while the interior is also a little bit polarizing, I still think this all-new BMW X3 is still one of the class-leading vehicles in this very crowded premium luxury SUV segment here, and especially with some new contenders coming into the market like the all-new Audi Q5, which has a significantly higher starting price than before. I would still probably consider this X3 over some of those options. So let's go dive in. I'm going to take you guys on a full tour and review of this fully redesigned BMW X3, show you all of the cool features, some things you may like, may dislike, and see how I have been living with this vehicle over the course of the week. Let's go dive in. So of course, with this latest generation X3 comes the latest generation of BMW's iconic B58 engine. This is the new B58 B30 M2 engine, and of course it still is that 3-liter TwinPowerTurbo, which means it's one twin-scroll turbocharger, inline 6 engine under the hood here, mounted in, of course, the traditional longitudinal format, and BMW has made some modifications for this latest generation of their engine. Of course, it still has that 48-volt mild hybrid system under here, with the electric motor sandwiched between it and the ZF 8-speed automatic gearbox. We still have X-Drive all-wheel drive with the rear-wheel drive bias, but this one now has a redesigned crankshaft, cooling systems, and a whole bunch of other stuff to make it more efficient and more powerful and power dense as ever before. This one's making around 393 horsepower, so no shortages of power on this, and it still sounds pretty nice, even though a little bit maybe muted than some previous versions of the B58. It still has that iconic sound. And of course, BMW mounts their engines as far back as they can shove them in this chassis to get that perfect weight distribution and balance in here. And there's a lot of nice decoration stuff going on under the hood, as we would expect. We have a nice engine cover with the M badge on this particular one, BMW logo on the side, and you can see how this new front fascia is kind of integrated under the hood area over here, but nothing too crazy really under the hood, just a little bit of some updates for this engine. Hopefully the next generation of X3 way down the road will probably see some more significant changes, but we may see that come in some other models firsthand. Still an absolutely fantastic powertrain, and if you don't want this, you can always opt for the fantastic B48 turbocharged 4-cylinder engine in the X330. Now, of course, an all-new X3 means an all-new design, and this is probably the boldest looking X3 we have ever seen as of yet. It's incorporating the latest BMW design elements, and in particular, I'm seeing a lot of stuff drawn from the iX, the all-new XM as well, throughout the entire design of this new BMW X3, and you can definitely see that as apparent up front here. Big new kidney grills. This one has the particular illuminated kidney grille package, which I actually think looks really nice on this car. We also have that new style BMW badge up here where it's kind of indented and recessed in the hood, where the kidney grills built into there. The only interesting parts over here that I'm not the biggest fan of, and of course styling is up to you, it's your total decision, but I'm not sure if these headlights fit the design of this vehicle. They don't really fit in the rest of the BMW design language, I think. And also the hood is really flat over here. There's some curves going onto the fender arches over here, but it has a very flat, low presence there. But I honestly think this front end really isn't that offensive whatsoever. I think the grills look quite nice. Coming down to the lower bumper area over here on this M51, we have this contrasting kind of black piece here, very akin to what we've been seeing on the X5 and X6M, which I think is quite nice. I like this lower area over here, and we also have some passive aero on the sides. But I have to say, in this Vegas red paint, it looks absolutely gorgeous here in the sun, but you have plenty of new colors to choose from. Now, coming over to the side over here on this new BMW X3, you can kind of see those very iX-inspired fender arches. They're a little bit more rounded out, a little bit boxier and more pronounced than before. But otherwise, down here we have some pretty nice stuff going on with the wheel and tire option. This is a 1037M style wheel for BMW, so this is an optional 21-inch M derived bi-color wheels. So we have this cool machined finish with this black gloss inner piecing over here. This one's wrapped around a very aggressive Goodyear tire over here, but you have plenty of wheel and tire options throughout the lineup of the X3. So you really can pick and choose there. This is just one upgrade. Costs around $600 too. It's definitely a unique look, I would say. And hiding behind here, since we have the upgraded M Professional Pro package, we are also getting these red calipers as well as upgraded brakes. And I have to say, when you're driving this all-new X3 M50, the stopping power with these brakes is absolutely incredible. It stops very aggressively. The brake pedal works well, as a nice pedal feel to it as well. And I have to say, the grip as well from these tires are also fantastic. Now, before we head to the full rear end of this all-new X3, I just want to give a moment to appreciate the side design of this vehicle. Love it or hate it, I have grown to love how the side profile of this car looks over the course of this week. I just think it looks really distinctive and really cool of a design. It has this really strong, pronounced sloping area for the C-pillar, really sharp rear three-quarter window as well. And I really like how the vehicle just comes to this really sharp angled point at the rear with this nice sloping down tail end over here at the rear of the tailgate. I don't know, I'm a big fan of this part of the design of the X3, but let's go have a look at the rear design now. Now, heading back to the full rear end of this all-new BMW X3, you definitely see a little bit more familiarity here with the previous generation, specifically in these LED taillights. It's almost like they took those kind of energy storage style taillights from before and just slimmed them down and made them a little bit more modern and futuristic. I actually really think this works very well on this all-new X3. And I have to say, in pictures, the car looks way bigger and kind of more bloated than it actually is in person. I'm 6 feet tall, and you can just see how low this rear end kind of swoops down back here. It's really interesting. It looks almost more like a sporty wagon almost than an SUV. And we're also seeing the new quad exhaust design that we've been seeing on all of the M Light and full M models throughout the BMW range. I think it looks really nice. We have kind of black gloss finishers around them, and they are actually real tips that could go straight into the exhausts right back there. But as you can see, there's one pipe that splits into these quad exhausts at the end. And one important note is that we have the BMW kind of Sky Lounge roof up here, and that means we can't open it. So you will get a gigantic glass panoramic roof, completely uninterrupted, but you can't open it. Thankfully, you have a sunshade because it does get a little bit toasty in there, but it's a little bit disappointing. So opening up the trunk area over here on our all-new X3, of course, full power rear tailgate. We can open it via a variety of ways, but that's how you can do it from the actual vehicle. And we have around 10% more cubic feet of storage space back here. So behind this second row, we have around 32 cubic feet of cargo space. And it's a nice boxy shape over here, which makes putting like things like suitcases in and out a little bit easier. We have a nice scuff plate over here with this kind of new BMW geometric pattern over here. We have some side storage cubbies on either side, and opening up this floor panel over here reveals a compact spare tire. This is something we're seeing a lot more common on BMWs, is they're kind of moving a little bit more away from run flat tires, but that means we are kind of lacking a little bit of some additional storage space under the floor area over here, but nice to see we actually have a spare tire. We also are getting a cargo cover on this particular one as well, which can be removed. So when you fold down that second row seats via these little latches over here, they're not powered, they just fold down. You will have a little bit more of some easier room to just kind of shove stuff in there. I like how these are kind of covered as well, these gooseneck arms for our tailgate, and they kind of blend into this here, so they're not really intruding on any space. But overall, pretty decent trunk space. I like how low the load floor is as well, and we still have easy power buttons to close and open this space as well. But let's go take a look at the interior, because that is one of the boldest parts of this all-new BMW X3. Okay guys, we're gonna go take a look at the interior of the all-new BMW X3. We have the latest generation BMW key fob with the M Sport badges on here. Remote start in the US, we can do this 3 times on here, which is quite nice. And unlock pretty easily. Traditional BMW sound, and we have some mild taillight animations. The one thing I will note on this vehicle is we don't have the keyless access controls on the rear doors, only on the front doors. Let's hop inside the all-new X3. Nice door closing sound as well. Have a listen to this. Very solid. Really like that about the new BMWs. Very, very solid German sound. We also have tinted rear privacy glass as well. Opening up the door panel, we can see how wide it opens. pretty good angle actually, not a complete 90-degree angle, which is always optimal, but I think this is pretty good. We still have a pretty nice opening space to get in. Now, what I'm not too big of a fan of is what they've done on this interior. It's not as nice, I would say, as the previous generation's X3. A little bit more of some harder materials up here. It's just soft touch, but it looks super premium for a $72,000 vehicle. Anyways, let's hop inside. We'll talk about this when we get in there. Getting in and out is thankfully a little bit easy. Comfy seats. Let's close the door once again. Nice solid funk there. And here we are in the back of the all-new BMW X3. And I'm sitting behind my driving position. I'm 6 feet tall, if that helps you guys. It's a little bit on the snugger side, I would say. We have a little bit of some accessory holes right here if you want to pop in some stuff there. You can see we have some nice cutouts for my knees and legs back here. It was good foot room, which is pretty nice, and good knee room, actually. I don't feel like I'm too cramped, but it is definitely on the smaller end. We have some nets back here behind the front seats, which is also nice. We also have our own air vent controls with BMW's interesting new air vent control sticks there, but we have a more traditional one down there still. No heated rear seats on this particular one, though we do have a little storage cubby and 2 very quick charging USB-C ports. Big hump in the floor, of course, for that drive line going to the rear wheels over there. A nice premium carpet as well. And then the seats themselves, I would say, are pretty comfortable. I would like a little bit more thigh support, actually, but otherwise, these are the full leather seats here. So we have the M stitching on this one, which is kind of cool. And this kind of blend with this microswave material back here into the top portions and headrests of the seats. And you can see the sun shining in from this massive glass roof here. But like I mentioned before, it does not open. We do thankfully have a sunshade because it can get a little bit bright back here. We do thankfully have a touch activated interior LED light in here, which is nice. Grab handle hook and a little bit more of a cheaper feeling textile headliner as well in this vehicle. But yeah, this is the rear seats of the all-new X3. Almost forgot to point out, we also have 2 cup holders right here on the center console area over here. A little bit moist with some cups in there recently, but otherwise, that is about it back here. So let's go hop up front and see the radical change that's happening on the front end of this cabin. Now hopping up front in the all-new BMW X3, just locked. But we're gonna go hop up closer. You can see it's unlocking automatically. We have our mirrors fold out for us. Again, same flush door handles. And oh boy, this is the crazy part of the all-new X3. We're gonna talk about a lot of the stuff in here in a second. I just wanna point out to you guys some first things. We don't have a side sill plate on this particular one, but we do have the nice BMW pedals down here, premium carpeting. We also are getting bolster support here, lumbar support, full power adjustment. Really nice seats. I have to say, these are some of my favorite newer BMW seats, especially because of the bolstering is very, very strong on the sides over here. We have, of course, our traditional manual thigh extender as well. And these are also getting those same M patterns we saw in the rear seats, which I think is really cool. And this upper micro suede section. These are actually very, very nice, comfortable seats. Let's hop inside and see what else is very interesting about this interior. Getting in is pretty easy. Same nice door clunk as we saw in the rear. Oh, that sounds so great. Even opening it sounds nice. Awesome. And here we are, guys, inside the all-new BMW X3 interior. Let's start it up and talk about what's going on in here. We have our start-stop button right in the center area over here. And it comes to life. What is going on here? Well, let's get into it. Starting from the overall design, this is a very different, I would say, space than what many of you may be used to, or even some other BMW products may be used to. They definitely took a bold, I would say almost concept car-like approach to this interior. And let's just start with this door panel over here, because it's a little bit a big void of nothing. There's no more ambient light strips or kind of wood or any sort of trim piece going on in the store. They've really just gone to a very reductive style interior here. We only have a material choice piece right here, which is the leather with the blue stitching. This is all this kind of injected molded plastic material up here. And we also have this kind of textile material over here. And again, those harder plastics in these areas that used to have these really nice controls and switches. And at least they're not as cheap as the controls out back, but I'm not too sure what, why they're going with this. You have big cups areas in the door handles area over here. And of course, the most controversial, I think, piece of this interior is this section over here, I like to call it. So I actually quite appreciate this ambient light strip over here. It looks really, really, really cool at night, during the day, and when you switch your drive modes for sport, for example, it does a really cool animation, as you can see right here, which I think is pretty nice. But the interesting piece of this interior has to be this little panel up front over here. This would be your kind of main control panel for your lock, unlock, air vent for this particular air vent controls, and even seat memory, and it's all this one piece. It feels a little bit bit flimsy in some areas, and this is a haptic touch. So to control your vent open and being closed, which is right here, you kind of swipe it up or down, which is pretty interesting. It always works, which is nice, but it's a little bit confusing. This is also how you lock and unlock your doors. Unlock there, lock right there. As you can see, you gotta really press into it because it's not a touch, because you can see you really do have to press it, which is nice. And all of this illuminates at nice, even the X3 badge. Same thing with your seat memory here. You can press set and 2, for example, and it sets your seat. But very interesting design choice, I would say, right there. Harman Kardon speaker up here, and of course, to control the direction of this vent, you have that interesting little rubberized piece right here which you can move around, which is very interesting. Now, also new, which is a nice feature in this interior, is the newer style BMW M steering wheel. Really chunky steering wheel, as we expect out of BMW M products, but of course this one's getting that nice M stitching on it. Massive paddle shifters. They are plastic, actually. Very similar though what we're seeing across the entire BMW lineup though. So these can be found even on like the new M5, for example. Hold this down, you'll get some boost, actually some overboost on the highway if you want to have a little bit of some fun in the vehicle, but they work nonetheless, no issues there. We have our newer style stalks over here, so we can press this button and it'll expand to more light settings and the iDrive system. So there's some headlight controls there, but a lot of stuff will then project even more so in the infotainment system. Automatic wiper controls as well, which as we would expect in a BMW. And all of the buttons are pretty familiar. So we have our adaptive cruise control system stuff on the left-hand side, and our controls over here for our radio, as well as our display. So we have the heads-up display on this one as well, and we have our iDrive 9 system. So this is the largest version of iDrive 9 we've seen. It's taking up both displays, and it's not just pure touch based like in the X1 or X2. We have, of course, the iDrive controller there, which we'll get to in a second. I also want to talk about the dash design, because again, very geometrical shapes over here. And it's interesting what they did here. It's very high up there, and of course, it's really built for this iDrive screen, and it's more integrated into the dash, as you can see. It's not necessarily just like stuck on. Of course, it still has that nice curvature to it, so it's really focused on the driver. And this side is really interesting. We have this interesting stitching pattern here. You can actually get this in a textile material on the dash area over here, but there's no trim anywhere in this car. There's always this piece right here, and it's just ambient light, injection molded plastic, and this one piece of trim in the entire interior where you can actually change the configurator. This one has this brushed aluminum finish trim in here, but I wish there was more trim on that vehicle. I'm not sure why they kind of moved away from that. I also have to talk about this wild center console area over here. So as you can see, we have one wireless charge mat over here, which is ventilated, which is nice. 2 very quick charging USB-C ports. We have a little spot here for maybe a larger phone or device you can plug into right there. Interesting dividing section over here, I would say. We have this M logo right here, which we've actually seen in some other X3s, but how this is implemented in this new one is very interesting. And what I do not like at all is what they did with these cup holders. They have these non-deformable bumps in them that do not work with a lot of cups. I understand the point of it, to kind of make some cups that have that deformed section in them to kind of sit in, but not a lot of cups actually have that, and it results in the cup just kind of wobbling around even with these holders there. So I'm not the big fan of that design choice there, BMW. And if you haven't noticed already, there's a giant ambient light strip in this entire center console area over here. So again, it looks cool, definitely a little bit futuristic, and of course if you don't like it, you get to turn it off, but this is a very integral part of the interior of this vehicle now. We also have these very slim new air vent controllers over here, so they move very easily, but it may take a little bit of time of getting used to. And built into this ambient light strip right here is more haptic control. So this is how you open and close your vents, for example. And we have some hard buttons for our defrost settings, and of course our hazard lights, which will make the entire interior kind of do this really cool animation thing over there when you press that. Center console over here, again, pretty stiff, but you know, what we've seen in much other BMWs. Opening that up reveals quite a bit of storage actually, so that's quite nice. So nothing too bad there, I would say. We have a 12-volt socket in there if you want to charge some other devices. Solid closing sound. We have our newer style BMW center console control area over here as well. So we have our shifter, which is this little kind of stubby thing. So we have reverse neutral drive sport. Parking brake is now integrated into our button here, as well as our auto hold switch right there, which is nice. Nice volume knob right here, which I thankfully we still have. Forward reverse tracks, and some other hotkey buttons right there, which is really nice. And I love the newer iDrive controller, and I just like that we still have an iDrive controller. Sounds very nice as well. It still has that touch control built into it. And of course, quick access buttons for things like our parking assistance system, which is always fantastic on every BMW. It's probably the industry leading system. It remembers all of the courses you just did. I can literally press start back up and it'll follow that entire path. So we have a quick access control here for our drive controls and driver assistance controls, which I like that we can get into this really easily. So you can turn on and off stop start if you want to, turn it on and off the fake engine noise that's pumped into the vehicle, just quickly adjust your heads up displays. And thankfully, we also do have a manual glove box control here. It's a little bit on the smaller side, felt line, but it's lockable and manual control. So thank you BMW for continuing to do that. So this is iDrive 9 on this particular BMW, full touch base. It's a little bit different than iDrive 8.5. Pretty much identical at the end of the day, but there's some little operating things that are mildly different. And of course, on our home screen, we can swipe over here. We can make it either a map, so it can be either Waze, Apple CarPlay, the built-in BMW Maps, Google Maps will all appear right here, which is really cool. Or you can just have it be the My Mode display there. Swipe down, we can have our quick shortcut page as well, or change your drive profiles. And I like how they've really kind of tuned in the climate control systems now, so I can turn on and off my heated, ventilated. We have on this particular one, which is an option, and heated steering wheel from this button here without having to go into the climate menu. This one, though, interestingly, does not have a navigation system built in, because this one, I'm assuming, does not have the upgraded connected package. So it's not really signed into a profile, but that means we actually can't display our maps up here. Even if you are in Waze or Apple CarPlay, if you don't have that connected package, you can't even display your map up there, which is a little bit frustrating. It feels like I'm being forced to get into these packages, actually. That also means you can't unlock some of the fun things you can do with this infotainment system, like playing the Air Console games and some of the other stuff. So you're a little bit limited when you're not fully connected to all the stuff in this BMW connected system over here. So everything really is kind of cloud-based, internet-based now in these cars, so it's a huge component, I would say. Nonetheless, guys, though, that is really wrapping up most of this stuff in this interior. Seats, like I said, incredibly comfortable. I have to say, the leather feels absolutely very fantastic and premium. Same thing with the steering wheel. Leather feels really nice. It's just, I don't know, it's a little bit void of some character or feel in here. They have a lot of cool, futuristic ambient light elements and stuff. Everything works well. The driving position is fantastic, spot on, as you would expect from a BMW. But in terms of material-wise, everything's built together to up the BMW standards. It's just the materials have downgraded themselves just a little bit, and I think that's a little bit unfortunate for this class of vehicle. But again, like I mentioned, we're seeing that in things like the new Q5. Even the GLC has while it has a lot of ambient lighting, some of the materials in there are a little bit on the chintzier, plasticky side, a lot of gloss black. But BMW, we said no more gloss black everywhere. We didn't mean hard, scratchy plastic. So hopefully they can figure this out going down the road. And this is the all-new interior of the BMW X3. Let's go take this thing out on the drive. Immediately, we have our seatbelts that tighten us a little bit, so that's a nice welcome touch here. And it's definitely a refreshing new driving experience compared to the previous generation X3. And if you're not a fan of the looks of this new vehicle inside or out, you will still be able to appreciate the incredible and signature BMW driving experience this car still happens to have. So I really am happy about that in this all-new X3 here. Now with the new steering wheel, for example, we have a new steering rack as well, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting. It's a very light rack. There isn't a lot of weight to it. There isn't a lot of necessary direct connected feel in that sense, so that combination kind of removes a little bit of that more natural feel you have in the steering. But it is incredibly direct, and still with this chunky M steering wheel, when you kind of grip it like this in the right correct points here, you feel like you're almost one with the car. And right now we're not in sport mode, so we don't have the sporty steering on there. You really can kind of precisionally point this vehicle where you want it to go at any time, and it goes. So that I really appreciate still with the BMW steering. It's a very quick yet kind of a more lighter feeling rack there, so it's interesting what they've done there. But throw it into a corner and it handles it like no one's tomorrow. Still probably one of my favorite handling SUVs in this class. Suspension is really good. Brakes are fantastic. We have the upgraded brakes on this particular one with the additional M package here, so we also get red calipers, but they are quite nice. Like I said, very precise steering, very neutral handling with the suspension as well. You don't get a lot of body roll. It's very well controlled. And that B58 instantly kicks into life there. And you can see how great and progressive the brake feel here is. You have a lot of control with how much brake pressure you want to dial into this vehicle. So that's a fantastic feature there. And when you do really press on it, instant stopping power. So no complaints there whatsoever. M2 over there and an X2 BMW family. Those are real pops, guys. That is not fake engine sound coming in there. I've heard it on the outside and can confirm it. It's pretty cool of an engine sound here on this new X3. And yeah, it's still fun to drive of a vehicle. The 8-speed ZF automatic is pretty quick shifting still. Nothing has really changed there in that department. And you know, when you pop it in that S transmission mode here, it still really does come into its own. You still have that manual control with these very large paddle shifters now. They're more of a plasticky feeling before. They're rubber backed, which is nice. But that is how you can kind of manually shift your BMW X3 M50. And some really aggressive shifts out of the ZF 8-speed. That's still one of my favorite things with this gearbox, is that how well you can tune it. Well, the manufacturers can tune it to be really aggressive with shifting, and BMW is one of the best tunings of this gearbox still. Now, suspension is adaptive, so you have comfort and sport now. You can actually change, so it's not just a passive system. Still, generally, even in comfort, it's on the stiffer end of the transmission, I mean the suspension spectrum there for dampers. So you're definitely going to feel that around town. Though nonetheless, if you want, you know, a non-stiff suspension, you can just go for a regular good old X3 30. But it's not the stiffest vehicle in this class. I would still say the new GLC 43 is a little bit stiffer. So this has a really good progressive suspension system, so it still is able to soak up those bumps and dampen them a little bit, even with the more stiffer damping for the body control. So they've done a good separation between those two areas right there. But you're still gonna feel it in your seat just a little bit more so than a regular X3. Coming out onto the highway here, we're gonna take it out of our S transmission just for a second here. We're gonna pop it back into a more calmer, efficient mode here as traffic builds up, and this is where we can pop into play our driving assistant professional package here. So all we have to do is press that on, can change it from assisted driving to just distance driving right there. And since this one doesn't have the connected services, I don't believe we can use the assisted plus, which is where you can actually take your hands off the wheel under a certain speed in traffic conditions, and the car will kind of help you around there. There's also automatic lane change as well when using the connected BMW navigation system, which is a pretty cool feature as well. So that's a fun touch. Get a little bit of some downshifts into their sport transmission. See how it accelerates. Some pops coming off there. Really nice sounds. Good control through the corners. A little bumpy, but good body control. So you're gonna feel a little bit of those bumps. And the shifts, lightning quick, even in the manual setting there. So really appreciate that in the all-new BMW X3 M50. And it's a great highway car. They've really toned in the interior sounds as well, so it's kind of a little more sound reduction from the exterior sounds from other vehicles. So the glass is a little bit more thicker, a little bit more body insulation. But I'm still impressed they were able to kind of keep a little bit more of that natural engine sound coming in from under the car, from the exhaust, some intake sound. And yes, there's still a little bit stuff popped in from the speakers, but it's less than some other BMWs I have tested as of recent. And everything while you are driving, if you're using those adaptive modes as well, for adaptive cruise control, things are easy to adjust in a quick manner as well. You'll definitely get used to it over time with all the iDrive. I always like to say that these new BMWs have a lot of helpful kind of cheat code shortcuts now. So if you want to access light controls, there's a little button there. I'll access more light controls up here, interior light controls, that opens up there. Drive mode controls, a little shortcut button there, and it brings up some more settings. So I'm really appreciative that they understand that people still want some hard buttons, and they have them placed throughout the interior in a very good manner. And out here on the highway is where this vehicle has another split personality. And even with this really powerful inline 6 engine under the hood, this thing is so efficient still at the end of the day. If you're not driving it aggressively in efficient mode, this thing can just efficient coast on the highway. And I can prove that to you from going to our home screen here and go to our adaptive content, and it gives us a live readout of what's happening with the vehicle. So we're now efficient coasting, and BMWs coast so well on the highway. You feel like you're still moving. Some hybrids, such as Toyota's Series hybrid system, Series parallel hybrid systems, there's always this constant regenerative braking effect that's happening, and even on the highway you feel like you're trying to go a little bit quick, but you always feel like you're coming to a stop if you want to let off. It's always better, I think, to be coasting on highway scenarios, and BMW has understood this very well. This is how this vehicle can get really impressive MPG numbers on the highway, well into the 30s for this 400 horsepower turbocharged inline 6, but that 48 volt mild hybrid system has really been kind of tuned in a little bit more so to really improve those MPG numbers. Also, the auto stop start system with this 48 volt motor is seamless. Listen to this engine start. You don't feel it or hear it. It's really incredible. You barely even feel it turn off. So yeah, guys, this is still a very, very fun car to drive around the time. It's a perfect performance daily, I would say. It has the power, it has the ability to be still efficient, so it hasn't lost that capability whatsoever. But this car is a little bit more polarizing for some, a little bit more bold, a little bit more too much technology, I would say, in some areas. So definitely take that into consideration if you are looking at an all-new X3. But I still have enjoyed my week with this vehicle. Like I said, it has that amazing capability of having a completely split personality in all the right ways in terms of this driving experience. That driving experience is still here. The powertrain that we all know and love of BMWs is also still here. So that is a great part of this X3. It's a different formula, a different, more technical focused take on traditional, BMW's ethos of driving pleasure and performance here. So if that's something that you like, you will like this new X3. But no doubt in my mind, this interior it doesn't feel as luxurious or as more upscale as even the previous generation one did. So I really hope they take that into consideration, because I know I'm not the only one voicing this, and I wouldn't say it if it weren't true. I do genuinely feel that about this interior. So hopefully they'll take all these kind of notes into consideration going down the road, and maybe we'll make those changes in a future update of the X3. But for now, this is what we have, and it does definitely fit into the modern BMW lineup. And, as I'll always say, if you want something a little bit more premium, a little more luxurious, and have the extra dough to kind of shell out, go for the X5. Yes, it's a little bit bigger, but it still drives pretty good, even for its larger size. And over against a lot of its competitors, I still probably will end up taking this X3 over it. It still has that unique persona experience, both digital and physical, that only BMW can really offer. So that is my take on this all-new BMW X3. Some things, like I said, you'll love it or hate it, but at the end of the day, it's still a BMW at heart and in the experience on a day-to-day basis. Thank you guys for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned for more coming on Allcarnews.